what if something happens? What if something doesn't happen? What if you take this risk and you fail? What if all of these bad things are just going to happen? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about shifting that whole entire perspective and getting out of this whole catastrophic thinking. So welcome to episode 82 of the Positivity Experience, reframing this catastrophic thinking. Check it out. Hey everybody, and welcome back to episode 82 of the Positivity Experience. It's your girl Lori, and we are going to be talking about catastrophic thinking because man, oh man, I would say it's plagued everybody at some point in time, but it's when you start to obsess it becomes problematic. So first of all, welcome guys back. I hope that you guys this week is going pretty well. Over on the Patreon, we are going to do a few exercises to really help shift the perspective of what if thinking. I'm going to give you a few exercises that I've used personally and that I share with all of my clients. So that is going to be on the Patreon. If you are a Patreon subscriber, you will get that. If you are interested in being a Patreon subscriber, you will see all of that here in the show notes. So you just go to the description of anywhere that you're listening to this podcast and you'll see where it says become a Patreon, only if you want to. So it just gives you, it's like the toolbox. It is called the Positivity Experience Toolbox. It's not searchable because you have to be a subscriber. So with that being said, I want to jump into it with you guys because I'm going to tell you right now, that's something that's holding you back 100 times over, right? And yes, there's some neurological or mental things that can really make this even harder to get through. But again, we don't use the word like, oh my God, it's hard. I mean, we all say that, right? But to not heal it is hard. To heal it is hard. So you have to decide your heart. And the catastrophic thinking, it becomes so problematic, it will keep you paralyzed in fear and doubt. And this, believe it or not, have a little bit to do with your ego, right? And if you missed the Ego Death series, go over to my YouTube, The Positivity Experience, over on YouTube, and you'll see last week I did, or I guess when you're listening to this, like 2 weeks ago, I did a series on ego death. It's like a Monday through Friday type thing. So you can go over there and check that out as well, because I think it'll really help you. And part of not getting stuck in the catastrophic thinking is also to be in the present space, which literally has saved my life. Like, the why I'm on this planet is to stay in the present space. And it's something that does require vulnerability. So if you're already resistant to vulnerability, you very often are going to start with the catastrophizing. And this becomes extremely problematic. Sure, catastrophizing, that's not a word. Catastrophizing can be a result of anxiety, right? So like when you have anxiety, very often you're going to go down that rabbit hole. This is not to diagnose yourself. Please don't do that. Just talk to your doctor about it on how bad this catastrophic thinking is. Again, it's not abnormal to be like, oh my God, well, what if that happened? That's not abnormal, but it's where you're only looking at it from the negative. You're only going to the negative. You're never wanting to look for the positive in fear of being let down. And we're going to talk about that too, because that's you trying to be in control of something that's actually controlling you, right? So again, it's extremely normal, right? But it's when you are finding yourself being held down and freezing and all of those things, right? So think about this too. Let's say your boss says to you, hey, I need to talk to you about something. Or a friend texts you and says, hey, I need to talk to you about something. Now, when that happens, are you immediately going to oh my God, what'd I do? Holy crap, what do they want? Am I going to lose my job? Wait, what did I do with her? Like, did I make her mad? All they said was, we need to talk, or I need to talk to you. You immediately attach this, oh my God, it's got to be bad. So I'm just giving you like ideas of where catastrophic thinking will come into play for you. Just because somebody says, hey, we need to talk, doesn't mean, hey, we need to talk. I hate you. You did this bad stuff. You're going to lose your job. I mean, it could, sure, but it also could not. And see, that's the secret, right? The secret to catastrophizing is not just to just stop catastrophizing, but you got to give your mind somewhere else to wander, which again, that's what we're going to talk about over on Patreon. But, you have to understand, you don't get to sit there and determine it in your head. So let's say somebody says, your boss, right? Let's say your boss or a friend, whoever says, hey, I need to talk to you about this Thursday. So we need to get together. I'm going to put it on my schedule, 11 o'clock on Thursday, but it's Monday. So you know that you're talking on Thursday. It becomes problematic where now Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, you are consumed by, oh my God, did I say something? You're going back through your socials. Did I post something? Did I say something wrong? What did I do to these people? That's not going to serve your best and highest good. Let's say they are mad at you. Let's say you did something bad. I'm over in quotations with that. You can't do anything about it between now and Thursday in this scenario, right? And see, that's your ego. When you think that you can obsess on it, and somehow or another, it's either going to prepare you or change it, that's all ego. It absolutely is what it is. You have to adopt the it is what it is mentality. And this comes with time, right? You're not just going to do this off of one podcast or 10, right? So because you have to do the work on your side of it. And believe it or not, even in healing, people catastrophize, and I'll explain that in a little bit. But that's the important factor, is to understand that whatever that conversation is going to be Thursday, that's going to be. It doesn't matter what narrative you put to it, what you could have done different, what you think you did, doesn't matter. It's done. It's literally over. You'll figure out what it is. They could literally be like, hey, you know what? I'm planning a special birthday party for Beth, and I think it might be a good idea if you help me. You'll be like, oh, that's it? You gotta stop doing it. Okay. And this is going to be problematic. So let's talk about this whole work thing. You put so much of your worth on friendship or work and the things that you do. Yes, we live in a world where you gotta have money. I hear you. Right? But let's say you look at it and you go, oh my gosh, I just did that interview and I think I tanked it. There's no way I'm ever going to get that job. Okay, well, first of all, I'm never going to get that job. Okay, maybe you won't get that job, but you'll get a job. Let's not make this like this job is the mecca of jobs. Even if you want it super bad, it's not the end of the world. And see, that's the thing. You're putting all of this value and worth upon something that's external from you. Right? So like, think about it this too. If you've ever said something like, oh my God, I can't believe I got let go of that job. Or I can't believe that I'm not going to get that job. Oh my God, my life is just never going to be the same. I don't understand. If I fail this test in school, I'm screwed. No, oh my God, calm down. You see, you're looking at it from one direction. That's the problem. See, the issue is you're thinking that there's only one way to get from A to Z. There's not. There's like 150 ways to get to A to Z. Sure, some are more difficult, some are harder, but you can't do that. So let's take that kind of fear thing too. And let's say you're going to go to the dentist or the doctor or something, and all of a sudden you start going, oh my gosh, I know I had that like weird bump on my nose. I wonder if it's something really, really, really bad. Okay, why are we doing this? Why are you? Get off of Google. Stay off of Dr. Google. Dr. Google's not your friend. Because the reality is, whether you think that you're looking for something positive in it, you're not. You're looking for, oh my God, what's the worst thing that could happen? You're actually looking for that, whether you know it or not. So you can't do that. Listen, the reality is, and we're going to talk about ego death, which is ego integrity, which is acceptance of death. And at the end of the day, yeah, I would dare to say, I don't care how religious you are, how spiritual you are, who you are. I think there's always going to be a little level there of fear of what happens in the afterlife. Even if you're intuitive, even if you know that there's spirits, even if you believe in certain religions, you're still going to second guess it. That's actually absolutely normal because no one's outrunning this. No one, not you, not me, not the next person beside you listening to this. You're never going to outrun it. Stop trying. But if you're focusing solely on that part of it, then you're not living your life. You're worried about something that's inevitably going to happen. Unequivocally, absolutely, without a doubt, 100% going to happen. Yep. And when you go down that rabbit hole of like, oh my God, what if there's nothingness? You're not going to know. You're not going to know that there's nothingness. You'll be dead. You're not going to know. But if you go through life catastrophizing everything and fearing that inevitable, absolutely positively going to happen scenario, then you're never going to live because you're always going to be fighting and battling and worrying about it. right? And so again, like I said, anxiety, very, very normal. And I don't think people understand that anxiety is not all bad. So you got to stop trying to outrun that, right? So let's say let's say you're like, hey, you know what? There's been a lot of violence in the neighborhood. And you know what? I'm a little apprehensive of going out after 9 o'clock at night. Okay, well, that's a little bit of anxiety. That's kind of like to be expected, right? That's fine. And you go, okay. And maybe you do see after a while, oh, you know what? I can go out after 9. That's like, this just happened down the street. Doesn't mean it's going to happen here. Okay. But if you catastrophize that, this is kind of the difference between anxiety and catastrophization, if that's a thing. Probably not a word, but it's a Lori word. And so you have to understand that if you then go, oh my God, I have to immediately leave this neighborhood, and then I can never leave my house again at dark. Oh my God, why did we go down that rabbit hole? Because if you are anywhere in this world listening to this podcast, anything can happen anywhere. A church, a grocery store, the bus, a plane, a car. It can happen anywhere. Yeah, I understand if you can protect yourself a little bit, for sure, be proactive. But it's when it becomes paranoia. Got to be careful of that, right? Especially because so a lot of times, and again, please talk to your doctor about this. Do not start to start to say, hey, this is what I have. Like, we're not doing diagnoses. But, it can also be linked to depression and obsessive thinking, which is OCD, right? OCD, I don't think people realize that when you have OCD, it's not just about touching a light switch 5 times before you flip it on. That's ritualistic. But it's also obsessive thinking. When you can't get off the merry-go-round, you're constantly on this loop. This is all you can think about constantly over and over again. You might want to talk to your doctor about a possible OCD, symptom check. And/or depression and anxiety. This is a reason, not an excuse. So I'm going to need you to know this. Reason, not excuse. You don't get to say, I have severe anxiety and depression and my catastrophic thinking is problematic. This is just how I am. Absolutely not. You can work through this. Is it going to be a little bit harder? Sure. It's going to be a little bit more challenging. Absolutely. But it's what it is. You have to allow yourself to do the work that you need to do to get out of the catastrophic thinking. It's now become a default mentality for you. Okay. And so you have to understand too. So let's say, you're afraid to go running. I'm just thinking this in my head. You don't like going running because the last time you went running, you had shin splints and they hurt for like a week. So now you're afraid of the pain every time you go running. So now you are projecting and you think that you're being proactive, but you're not. Literally, the fear of running is now imprisoning you. Now you're not even getting the exit, and you're like, well, I could go for a walk, but I really miss my running, but I don't want to do that. See, you think that you avoiding it or protecting yourself, I'm over in quotations, heavily on protecting yourself, that you're doing yourself this big favor. You're not. See, what you constantly feed into, even if you're protecting yourself, okay, what you constantly feed into is going to continue to rule you. And you have to be careful. And listen, I told you, I am the queen back in the day, not now. I was the queen of negative thinking. And every now and again, she'll rear her ugly head enough to be like, sit down. Go sit down. Like, I hear you. Go sit down. You're fine. And you know what? It'll be the same for you. That's going to happen a lot. And and there are some medicines out there that can kind of help with that. Like, I take my Zoloft, even though I'm a holistic prescriber. I believe listen, not everything holistic and supplemental is good or effective or even safe. So you can't just say, I never want to take something. That's going to be catastrophic again. I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. Okay, simmer down. Go sit down. You might need it for a short period of time. You might need it for the rest of your life. Stop it. You don't know. Okay, I take my Zoloft because Zoloft is really typically one of the ones that I would always recommend it starting at 50 milligrams, well, 25 and then upping to 50, because it really helps kind of tone down that chatter a little bit. This doesn't mean go to the store and get Zoloft because you can't. But, there's other ones too, like Prozac is known to be effective, Paxil. Yeah, there's a lot. Any SSRIs. You also have like the SNRIs, right? And that's going to be like your Cymbalta, your Effexor, and then very rarely do you get the tricyclic antidepressants. That's more like a Pamelor or something like that. There's like 4 more in there too. And then of course you have your atypicals, right? Which is going to be Wellbutrin and stuff like that. So, it could be 1, it could be 2 of those, it could be something. It just helps. Okay. Sometimes the anxiety is so high that you're going down that rabbit hole. Don't be resistant to medicine, or don't be resistant to things that are within your power, like the 5 journals, like the deep breathing. If you are resistant to it because it doesn't seem to quote unquote work overnight, and that it seems so hard and too time consuming, then you're going to stay where you are. Okay. You're going to catastrophically think about it. That's what we call that what if thinking. So I want you to do a few things with this whole what if thinking. And I got, like I said, a really good exercise we're going to do over on Peloton. We are not doing anything on the Peloton, over on Patreon. Okay. But there's a few different things. And let me tell you, therapy is effective. Coaching is effective. EMDR is effective. These are all great tools, but there's no one answer. If you've ever said something like, oh my God, I'm never going to get better. I've been in therapy for 10 years. I still don't feel better. Of course not. You're sitting there, you're attaching some weird expectation to it. You do realize, and maybe you don't, but I'm going to tell you, this is a lifelong thing for you to get into your self-love. And when you start to achieve it, you have to maintain it every single solitary day. And if you're going to catastrophize that and be like, well, you know me, I just can't stick with everything. Okay, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? Well, in the past, okay, you're here now. You're here now. So there's a lot with your what if thinking. Number 1, could those bad things happen? Yes. Yep, they absolutely could. You have to know that unpleasant things and not good things are going to happen. Not might, not could, absolutely without a doubt will. And it's how you respond to that. Just because you have a bad day doesn't mean that the rest of your year is going to be bad. Unless, of course, you go, well, how yesterday was, every time I come into work, every time this happens, stop it. Stop it with the every, always, and never. That's not helpful, right? And then you have to realize very often you're going to have irrational thinking, right? So you're like, let's say you say, wow, I really am having a bad day. And then all of a sudden you go, man, I knew this day was going to suck. I knew it from the door. And then something else weird happens and you're like, yep, see? Okay. Are you happy about being right? Because you're not right. You just increase the ability of that to happen. You can shift your day at any given time on a dime, because it's all about perspective. Now, I like to say things like, I am not thinking about that right now. Like literally that sentence, I am not thinking about that right now. So if I start to get on an obsessive loop, or if you start to get on an obsessive loop, the key here is to sort of interrupt the pattern, right? Because this is now a default for you. So it's like autopilot. Remember, like when you first start driving, you're like, oh my God, you're like super aware, your hands are on the wheels, all these things are happening. 6 months to a year later, you got one hand on the wheel, you drive in your driveway, you're like, I have no idea how I got here. My mind was going elsewhere, right? So these things are going to happen. But if you're constantly in the space of like, well, I guess every time I get behind the wheel of the car, I'm going to be putting my life at risk. I mean, in some ways, yeah, sure. But you could walk out and trip and fall and bust your head wide open and die. So if that's what we're going to do, and if you're looking for things to constantly be like, hey, I guarantee you that this is going to work out, then you are going to stay stuck. If you are waiting to feel ready, if you are waiting to have the quote unquote motivation, which we know is BS, if you're waiting for those things, you're going to keep waiting, because you're always going to make an excuse for why you're not consistent. Well, it's just really hard for me. Isn't it hard for you to stay the way you are? Okay, so you make up your hard. So when you're what if thinking, you have to understand that some of these things, oh, I'm going to have a bad day. Look at this. I know I had a bad day. Okay, congratulations. What do you want with that? And because then you go, well, listen, if I say I'm going to have a good day and then I get my hopes up, then okay, see, you're already at the end of the day, that's already negative thinking. You're already negatively thinking by you saying, if I think positive and then it doesn't work out, I'm going to be disappointed. You've already set yourself up for what if thinking negatively. That's a negative thought. Because the reality is bad things are going to happen. Yep. But they're also not going to happen. Good things are going to happen as well. Whether you want to know it or not, or believe it or not, everything in your life goes in a yin and yang, 50-50. It really does. You don't see it that way because you choose not to see it that way. That goes into a little bit of your victim mentality. So if you go, oh man, ever since I was little, all I had was pain and pain and pain and pain. Valid and truthful for you. But if you're going to say this is all I've ever had, that's not a true statement, because there are areas in your life that would mean that it happens every single day, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. That's not true. Pain doesn't happen that way for everybody. Now, I know some people with chronic pain will go, oh my God, but I'm in pain. I hear you. For chronic pain, you have to say, okay, what areas, when do I feel like I feel my best? I didn't say you feel good. I said, when do you feel your best? You got to look at it with that perspective. Talk to your doctor. See what else you can do with your chronic pain. But you're looking for the solution. You're not going, well, if I decide I'm going to wake up tomorrow and not have pain. Listen, you also can't it's not toxic positivity, but you can't be like, oh my God, tomorrow's going to be a blissful day. It's going to be the perfectest day on the perfect planet. Like, of course not. That's not realistic. So when you're what if thinking and you say, I'm not thinking about that right now, you do interrupt that pattern. And sometimes you have to say it 434 times. And this is where like your affirmations and the things that you say to yourself come into play. Because see, you can say, look at me, I have 700 stickies on my desk about all these affirmations. Yeah, you read them and then you don't believe that that's really true. You're just trying to convince yourself of that. So now you're walking around not wanting to look positive, think of the positive because, oh my God, you're going to be let down. It's easier if I just think negative and then I'm not let down. Okay, that's a trauma response and it's a little bit of victim mentality. So if you're not willing to take a walk on the wild side here and actually work on shifting perspective into something positive, because again, yin and yang, baby. It's equal measure. The sun does not shine and come up and do all this stuff without the moon. You don't get a rainbow without rain or some kind of wetness, right? That's what I'm saying. See, you want all of the glory and all of the joy and all of that stuff. You can't do that unless you're willing to go through the darkness. And you can't go through the darkness if you're worried about every single freaking day being dark. Then every single freaking day will be dark for you, even if it's good. Because even when you have a good day, you won't see it as a good day. You'll look for the things that are bad. That's a shift that's distorted thinking. That's exactly what that is. And that's why the self-love and self-care comes into play. That's why exercising is good. That's why meditation is good. 5 journaling is good. Because it's your space to dump it, not to judge it. So when you're catastrophic thinking, when you're catastrophizing or whatever, you're sitting there and you are literally lowering your vibration. And then you say something like, well, I don't understand. Like, why do I get all of these people around me who are like, I don't know, like they don't appreciate me. And also, okay, that's your vibe. That's your vibe. You don't get to wish for a vibe and then not work towards it. It is constant change, constant thinking of the opposite of the negative. So if you're going to what if it from the negative, you better what if it from the positive. Well, this could happen. Okay, it could. It also could not. Yeah, I mean, I know, but it could. It also could not. See, you aren't allowing yourself to know that you're resilient. You have survived 100% of your bad days to this day. 100% of them. 100%. So you're resilient. You got to give yourself a little bit more credit than that. So know too that this is a default now. And it could have, like I said, you want to talk to your doctor about it if it's extremely problematic, because there's medicines and different therapies that can help with that. And you have to accept that this is life. It is what it is. Good, bad, and everything in between. When you accept that, you put down your ego and you allow your vulnerability side to show. Now we're making progress. Because now you're like, you know what? I am going to go into this positive. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And if it does, it does. When you adopt it is what it is, baby, that is the gray area. And that's where you want to live in life. There are 50 shades of gray. Pick 2 and keep them. But if you go, but I only know how to think negative. We ain't doing that either. That's catastrophizing. That's being a little bit dramatic. Maybe up to this point, but you're here now. Book a session with me. Go on and continue to listen to the YouTube and the podcast and all of those things. But It's not a magic pill. I'm not a magic button. You taking the tablet every morning isn't a magic pill. That's the important part to understand. There is no magic pill. There is no magic solution. It's consistency, and it's the willingness on your part to do the work that you need to do. And challenge yourself. When you see the negative, give it something positive. When you get on the merry-go-round of obsessive thinking, you say, I'm not thinking about that right now. And then don't try to push it out of your head. Don't do that. Don't be like, okay, I got to get rid of this thought. Got to get rid of this thought. Yeah, that's like me saying, don't think of an apple. And then all you can think about is an apple. Don't push that button. I'm going to push the button. You can't do that. You got to let it, you got to give yourself a redirection. So essentially, you're rewriting those tapes that were given to you either by other people or your experiences. Without the ability to accept that piece of it and to accept that the negative does happen, but that you can bounce back from that. You've done it so far. You literally have done it so far. So I don't know what you're sitting there and you're getting yourself all bent out of shape for. And then you got to be careful of projecting that negative outcome, that what if thinking, onto the people around you. Stop inflicting your autobiography onto other people. Like, oh my God, but do you want to do that? Like, what if something blah, blah, blah happens? What? Stay in your lane. Why are you worried about them? They need to find their own way. And if it doesn't work, that's how they develop resilience. Stop inflicting your fear, your what if, and your expectations on other human beings. That is not fair to them. It is not fair to you. And it is not realistic. And when you get into that, it is what it is. You now respect people where they are. You're meeting them exactly where they stay. And that's the important factor, is to understand that your job isn't to bring them along. Your job isn't to chase any other human being or situation. Never, ever, ever, ever chase another person or a situation. You allow yourself to be you 100%. Be weird, be extra, be over the top, be intense, be basic. I don't care what you are, but be yourself. And when you're that person, what if it scares people off? Bye. What if it scares people off? Why would you look at it that way? Why wouldn't you say, well, I think it's the universe's way of clearing my path so I can grow further. But your brain isn't going to tell you that, because you're going to be too busy about holding on to people, thinking that you own people, but you don't own people and they're not your life raft. You get so busy in the, oh my God, what if I lose people? Are you kidding me right now? Well, what if the universe wants that roadblock removed to fulfill you with something else that's going to benefit your best and highest good? It is all about perspective. You cannot live in a negative headspace and a catastrophic headspace and then say you want peace and love. I just want to be peaceful. I just want to be happy. It's not going to happen. Let me be the first to tell you, nope, ain't happening. You don't get to be negative and then all of a sudden think positive things are going to come. No. And then even when they do come, now you're like, what's the angle of here? How long is this going to happen? When's the other shoe going to drop? If you want to live in the negative thinking and you want to get yourself into people pleasing, then that's where you're going to live. No one is going to do this work for you. No one is going to come decatastrophize you. This is your work. This is your work to know that you will slide into catastrophic thinking. Like I said, it rears its ugly head every now and again for me. And I just go, I'm not thinking about that right now. And then I go journal about it. I'm like, okay, old thought patterns. It's normal. The difference is that you have an outlet now. You have more tools. But if you're not willing to allow yourself to be vulnerable and be open to thinking from the positive perspective, thinking on the opposite side of the what if negative to the what if positive. If you're not willing to be vulnerable and be okay with, hey, if I fall and I fail, I'll get up and I'll dust my shoulders off. I'm a little scared. It doesn't feel good, but I'm going to do it anyway. That's where you grow. You already know the rule. Nothing grows in the comfort zone. It never has and it never will. You might perfect it there, but don't grow there. But it grows in the discomfort, in the uncertainty, in the fear. That's where it grows. So if that's what you're willing to do and you're ready to go do it, hey, I'm here for you. I'm here for it. It's not meant to be easy. It's not meant to be fluffy. It's not meant to be fun. It's not meant to be fast. If that's what you're looking for, you're going to keep chasing it. And I just told you chasing things is never going to serve your best and highest good. So allow yourself to sit with your thoughts and process your feelings. I have a whole podcast on feeling your feelings, actually feeling your feelings. So when you feel your feelings and you get solid in them and you start to accept that your feelings aren't facts, your fears of what if, okay, yeah, they could happen. They also could not. Yeah, but in that, nope, you're not thinking about that right now. You're here now. I don't care what you did for the last 30 years of your life. You're here today. Are you going to keep looking in the rearview mirror? If you do that and you keep driving forward, you're going to hit a wall. You're going to hit a wall. So that's where I want you to practice this week. I want you to be mindful of when you're having these negative thoughts. Okay? Give it something else to challenge. You got to challenge it. You got to rewrite the tapes. No one's doing this for you. No one is coming for you. No one. No one is coming to save you. No one is coming to live your life. No one is coming to rewrite your tapes. No one. And you have every single solitary bit of control of that in your own little back pocket.
Check it out.